Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Diminishing Returns. It's another annual special this week. I'm Alan, this is Sol.
Hello.
Today we are looking at the Oscars Best Picture nominations. We've done this every year for 5 years now.
Yeah, 2017 was the first one. So what's that? 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 5 years, yeah.
If there's any loyal fans listening, then they will already know that we have discussed the Oscar nominations in a Diminisode, and today we will actually be going through. We've watched all the films, and we will actually be reviewing them one by one.
So should we dive right in?
Yes.
We've sort of set a tradition now, Alan, of ordering the Best Picture noms in a kind of humorous way, and this year's no different. The first year, I think we went in the order that I thought they were most likely to win.
Okay, yeah.
And then I don't remember what we did for the following year, but I know last year we did them in chronological order, like when they're set, and we travelled through time in a time machine.
Oh, of their period, yeah, that's a good one. That was a nice one, yeah.
That was very good fun, yeah. This year, I was racking my head like, what's the through line we can order this according to? And are you aware that the Oscars have just brought in this diversity inclusion criteria, which I think takes effect for next year's awards?
Oh, they actually putting numbers on things, putting quotas on there.
Yeah. There's like an actual flowchart system now. It's you have to fill out a form if you're submitting your film to the Oscars. It's essentially to the effect of you have to meet 2 out of 3 of each criteria. Is there a woman in your film? Yes, no. Is there a disabled person in your film? Yes, no. It's that kind of a box ticking exercise. Were there internships available to people from underrepresented groups on the production of your film? It's a whole series of things like that. And I thought, okay, I will try and quantify which film this year was the most diverse out of all of them using numbers. So what I've done, Alan, is I've built a spreadsheet. I've gone through putting a little number next to each film, and I've put them in order.
Dare I ask what your categories were?
We'll go through it as we go, right? To start off, what film do you think is the least? We'll go from least to most diverse out of all the films. Which one do you think is the least diverse of our 8 Best Picture noms this year?
The Father.
Oh, really? No, I'm afraid you're wrong, Alan.
Damn it. I suppose there's women in it. Well, it depends what your categories are.
Shall I tell? Do you want me to tell you what the categories are broadly? I'm not going to tell you all of them. There's loads, but I've got a section for is the lead actor, and then a racial minority, a cis woman, trans, disabled, over the age of 70, or from any other minority group.
Oh, that's where I got caught by The Father. Just because he's an Anthony Hopkins doesn't mean he's not. He's so old that he's got dementia, and therefore
exactly.
It's a tick.
And then I've done the same thing for is there a significant supporting actor who is all of those things, and then the same for is there a second significant supporting actor who is all of those things. That's the actor, not the character. And the second one there is just, because it might be a fluke, that one off, but if there's more than one, that's like, oh, cool. And then I've got extra points for is the lead character from an underrepresented group? You get a point for each of the groups. Is the director, XYZ? Is a half of or more of the writers XYZ? A half or more of the producers XYZ? Is the subject matter's primary focus on an underrepresented group? You get a point for each group. And I'll tell you now, 5.5 points is how many the bottom scoring film got.
Is that good? I don't know what your system is.
Well, it's the lowest number of the bunch, so it's bad.
Well, that's got to be Mank.
It is Mank. Well done, it is Mank. That is our least diverse film this year.
They did put a woman in it.
There's 2 women in it.
There's a couple of women in there, yeah.
That's where it got all its points. Do you want to guess what the points were? So there's 2 women. And you will notice it's 5.5 points, so I awarded a half point here, which I haven't done anywhere else.
Is that because, John Ford's in it, and he's only got one eye? Someone playing John Ford.
Similar. No, so basically the women, there's 2 women actors, there's 2 women characters, that's 4 points right there.
You're getting double bubble on women.
Yeah, because it might be, Alan, a character who's a woman played by a man, in which case you only get 1 point.
But surely that's representative of transgender or something.
No, I'm not talking about a trans woman. I'm talking about a man. Look, if Eddie Murphy is in the clumps, I'm not giving him a point for that, all right? I'll give him a point for being a black man, but I will not give him a point for donning a dress and playing a woman.
Okay.
Anyway, okay, we got 1.5 points in the category is the lead character from an underrepresented group. And this is a good example of that because Gary Oldman does not fulfill either of these qualifications, but the character does.
Because he's an alcoholic?
No. He's Jewish, Alan. That's 1 point.
Is he?
1 point for Jewish. Yeah, Mankowitz.
Oh, I just know him as Mank, so I don't know.
But Gary Oldman, of course, is not. And half a point because he does have a broken leg for a bit of the film, which means he was disabled for part of the film.
I just want to go on record that I'm fully approving of this system. I'm just throwing that out there.
Look, I'm trying to be as close to the actual Oscars themselves, all right? This is what the Academy has decided needs to be done. I actually did look at the Academy's rules and I tried to copy it as much as I could, but the problem I ran into were things like it's difficult to quantify percentages of their crew because I can't just like go on IMDb and go, oh well, that sounds like a Chinese name. Maybe they're Chinese. Do you know what I mean? It's I didn't want to get into that dicey territory. And similarly, some of these things like, you know, LGBTQ, for example, a lot of people are gay or bi or other, and you wouldn't know it. So, you know, I just thought, well, I'm going to tweak it a bit. So that's the system we have here. Mank has 5.5 points. But what about the film itself?
We've already talked about it, Sol.
What do you want to do here? Shall we cut to a clip from our Review of the Year episode and then move on?
We will indeed, yes. Let me ask you a question, right?
Oh, God. All right, he didn't like it, Calvin. He didn't like it.
Who is this film for?
Oh.
I think it's for David Fincher to honour his dad who wrote it.
Yeah, I think this film is for David Fincher. I think that's who it's for. It's for... like, I know... I think I know more about kind of films and stuff than the average person. I know more about film history. I know more about old Hollywood. And I don't know anything about Herman Mankiewicz. Well, I know he wrote Citizen Kane. Like, that's about it.
That's fine, though. You don't need to know about someone for a biographic film to have value or entertainment value or whatever.
No, you don't. But there's a whole world setting here. People like Louis B. Mayer and William Randolph Hearst and Marion Davis. And I know a little bit about all those people. But, you know, I think most of the current film-watching public don't. I don't know if you really get enough information here to really tell... Like, if I hadn't watched Citizen Kane 3 weeks ago, there's loads of stuff here I wouldn't have got. I just wouldn't have understood or wouldn't have seen the reference or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we watched it quite recently. This feels like one of those classic examples of Hollywood eating itself and just kind of like someone who's in that world, in this little bubble, not realising that outside of that, there's a whole world where people don't give a toss about your little bit of history. The personal story that we actually get here is not engaging enough to make up for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of agree. The film was written by Jack Fincher, who is David Fincher's late father.
You should have set off earlier.
I think there was an air of like, oh, I'm going to make Dad's screenplay, and that's a way to honour my dad. Now, it's not badly written, but it's perhaps lacking an in point for anyone who isn't a Herman Mankiewicz biographer.
Yes, exactly. It's a niche audience.
And his life isn't, or at least the slice of it we get here, isn't that incredibly interesting or compelling to really draw you in, I guess. There's some really nice moments in this film, really nice scenes. They mostly involve Tom Burke as Orson Welles. Unsurprising, I guess. Orson Welles tends to dominate things when he's in them.
But he's not. He's really a very much a supporting character in this. He pops
he's
up
in
a
about
few
3
times.
scenes, yeah. But, you know, it's beautifully shot. I wouldn't expect anything less from a David Fincher film. It is, of course, kind of evoking the style of Citizen Kane.
That's another thing
of the
I
40s.
hate, by the way. Going, we'll shoot it in black and white because it's set in the olden days. It's black and white days. Yeah, let's do it in black and white. Let's do the sound on the one track so that it feels like Citizen Kane. Yeah. Fuck off.
I think that can be a valid way of making something, and I think the likes of Ed Wood, for example.
If you're going to do all that and you're going to, look, I'm evoking 1940s cinema, we're going to make it 1940s style. But you haven't, have you? You haven't shot it in a 1940s style. You've just done it in black and white. Commit to it as an artistic project or fuck off.
Oh my.
I'm annoyed. And David Fincher, I feel like David Fincher has like hit his point of where he's like lost his mind now and he's going to turn into Stanley Kubrick, which is not necessarily a bad thing because obviously we might get some great films out of it, but I think he's insane. I think he has no context anymore of why he's making films. He just wants to make his film exactly how he wants to make it, and everyone else can just
maybe
get on board or piss off.
I'll tell you what I did really like, little detail with regards to how they put the thing together. You're probably going to hate it. I like the way that instead of just putting like Hollywood Boulevard or whatever down at the bottom of the screen, they put exterior Hollywood Boulevard day.
I was okay with that. It's a little bit gimmicky, but it was in theme with the film, so that's fine.
Particularly when they had brackets flashback. I thought that was it's such a nice way of explaining that this is a flashback to us. It's
I was all right with that, to be honest with you. Yeah. Did you like how in this scene in this film we see Herman Mankiewicz from the age of like 30 to 42 or something, played by Gary Oldman, who's 65, and they make pretty much no effort to make him look younger at all. I'll tell you what little interesting fact I found out here when I was just reading about this. David Fincher and Gary Oldman share an ex-wife.
Oh, really?
They're both married to this woman.
Who?
Like at separate times, obviously. I don't know. I don't remember the name. She's not famous or anything. Oh, she's not an actor anyway. I didn't know the name.
Oh.
But they both got kids with her.
Good
Which
Lord.
one was first?
Fincher.
Oh.
Really? Because he's
Yes.
called Gary Oldman, so you'd expect he'd be the first one, and then
Well, he is older
Fincher
than
would be
David
the
Fincher,
new
but
one.
not that much older. But yeah, Gary Oldman was bloody married to Uma Thurman, wasn't he, when he's 30 years older than her?
Well, look, I didn't dislike it. I must say, for the first half, I was thinking, like, what is the point of this film?
Yeah.
It was like the last half hour, it kind of kicked into gear, and I was like, okay, I'm actually enjoying it now. But it's one of David Fincher's worst films, I'll say that up front. I think
It feels somehow quite unadventurous for him, doesn't it?
it really did, yeah.
Like, because the stylized feel he's gone for is just like film. Like, that's the style. It's in the style of a film. So it is underwhelming somehow. But having said that, solid performances all around. Some nice moments, a nice bit of Hollywood history, which I do actually have an interest in.
Yeah, that's it. There were these little nuggets in there that I was like, oh, that's interesting and really nicely kind of conveyed. And like I say, I did get, once they finally kicked into gear with the plot, as in he wants a writing credit on this film, I did find myself engaging with it. It's just it took a good hour before any of that really started. So I mean, I can't say I disliked it, but I completely get where you're coming from and agree with. I give it a really low 7 out of 10.
Yeah, well, like, obviously I've had some complaints, but I gave it a 6. It's well made. It's an engaging. It's not that engaging, actually, to be fair. But good acting. There's a character there. It's dealing with this Citizen Kane history, which it's slightly interesting. I don't know. I think I would enjoy this film more than most people, more than the average cinema goer.
Oh, completely.
And I gave it a 6.
Absolutely.
So there you go. That's how I think about it.
It was one of those films where I kept getting ready to be like, you know what, I don't like it. And then there'd just be one scene that would draw me in and I'd be like, oh, I like that bit. And it kind of earn another 10 minutes from me. It was that kind of an experience where it was like, okay. And I did factor it into my directorial filmography list, Alan. You'll be pleased to know.
Oh, yeah.
So David Fincher, I believe, has dropped down a place.
Oh.
It's lowered his average, so that's never a good thing, is it? He's now number 19 on my list, David Fincher. Oh, that was a good clip.
Not good enough, though, really. For a David Fincher, Gary Oldman, Oscar buzz. 10 Oscar nominations.
Yeah, well...
There are even that many Oscars?
Yeah, but bear in mind, most of those are technical awards for things like the cinematography and the set design, which, I think it's got really good, techniques. Even the music, I think, is really good. So I think that's justified. I do think it's one of the weaker films at the Oscars this year, though. We haven't touched on the pandemic and its impact on the last year in film, but, nothing came out. So with that in mind, I think it's quite remarkable how solid a selection of films this is. I won't spoil things too much, but this year in film, Oscar-wise, stands toe-to-toe with other years that the Oscars have given us in the past. You know I like a list, Alan. One of my lists is an averaged, like, Oscars by year. I'll average out my scores for all the Best Picture noms.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the score I gave this year's films was the same score that I gave the films of something like 2013 or 14. So it's standing toe-to-toe with past years.
So let's do the next one then.
Yeah, which one do you think it is?
I think the next one...
I'll tell you right now, the next one has 6 points, so it's only 0.5 more than the Mank.
I'm going to go with Nomadland. It's got a woman in it.
No, it's The Trial.
But then there's no one else in it.
The Trial of the Chicago 7.
Okay. There's no women in that. I will give you that. Absolutely no women in The Trial of Chicago 7.
Well, there's one woman.
But there's two... There is actually... Okay, I can think of 3 women who actually spoke. And that was only because I watched it, like, yesterday. But, yeah. Okay, go on then.
We've got 2 points for Sacha Baron Cohen, I think, here. We've got a racial minority supporting actor and any other...
What racial minority is he? It's because he's black.
But not only is he Jewish, but he's a practicing Jew, so he gets another point there for the religion side of it.
Is that how it works?
Yeah. We also have someone over the age of 70 in Frank Langella, who is extremely over the age of 70 in this film. What about the film, though? The
Trial of the Chicago 7.
Yeah, a very long gestating film, this one. This has been in the works for a long time with Sacha Baron Cohen attached to it. Almost as long as his Bohemian Rhapsody film that he actually didn't make in the end.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. I mean, it's obviously a story that's been told a few times in different media. Obviously, it's based on a true story, so it's been knocking about since the 70s.
I don't think Aaron Sorkin was involved until quite recently.
So did Sacha Baron Cohen, was he pushing for this? Was he like, oh, I like this project?
He really was, yeah. I listened to an interview with Aaron Sorkin where he said once he came aboard the project, he got a phone call from Sacha Baron Cohen, and Sacha Baron Cohen basically said, yeah, just so you know, I'm still attached to this film, so I have like first dibs on the role, just so you're aware. And the way Aaron Sorkin plays it is he was kind of like, oh yeah, cool, but the way he worded it made it sound a bit more like maybe Sacha Baron Cohen wouldn't have been his first pick. But, Sacha Baron Cohen's Oscar nominated here. He's one of the people that stood out.
Yes, I'd like to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, he's not the performance side nominee.
I think he's the worst performance in the film.
I think that's fair.
Now, I'm not saying that's bad. I think the performances are good overall. But the fact that he has been nominated is somewhat ridiculous, I think. It's almost Bizarro World-esque, like it might be some sort of joke. It might be Sacha Baron Cohen's doing a prank on us all.
I think it's kind of people trying to give him a bit of attention for Borat, like spilling over the goodwill from Borat. I think he's sort of been campaigning a bit more than other people have. I don't know, is that guy he's playing well known in America?
Yeah. Well, was at the time, yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's that as well. But no, I completely agree. Mark Rylance would probably be the guy I'd pick out of this film.
Mark Rylance was, absolutely blew it away. And he's just sort of quietly excellent, Mark Rylance. And I know
absolutely.
We're not exactly breaking new ground there, people know, but... fantastic performance from him. And I thought generally just great acting all round. Frank Langella really strikes a nice tone with that thing.
I don't think I've ever seen Jeremy Strong in anything before, and he was excellent.
I will say, this is not my favourite of the nominees, but it was definitely the most engaging of them. I started watching it grabbed me, and I sat there and watched it, and I was completely engrossed. In terms of the Chicago 7, obviously I know it's a real thing. I kind of vaguely knew what it was, but I didn't know what the fallout was. I'm not familiar with American history enough to kind of go, oh, well, I know exactly what happens.
Yeah.
So there was an element of suspense for me as well, actual genuine like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. I will say what happened was exactly what I expected to happen from beginning to end. So it didn't surprise me in that sense. But I was really engaged, totally pulled me in a way that I didn't quite expect.
I think there's a very unfair snobbishness about Aaron Sorkin now in the film community. I think he's an excellent writer, an excellent filmmaker. I do think he's I would rather watch an Aaron Sorkin film, written by him and directed by someone else. But if he's insisting on directing these films himself from now on, then that's fine. I don't know if you saw Molly's Game a few years ago. I watched that earlier this year, and I was surprised at how fantastic it was. I was really impressed with it. Trial of the Chicago 7 for me was similar, but I wasn't instantly captivated. It took until about halfway through to really, draw me in and captivate me.
Well, let me just pick up on your Aaron Sorkin point then, because I think these nominations are a really good example of what you're talking about, I think, which is Aaron Sorkin, I think, is getting out of date. Like, that style, I think it's excellent. Like I said, it's completely engaging. But just those moments in the Trial of Chicago 7 that just feel a little bit now like kind of dramatic, clunky moments of emotional catharsis or whatever. Like everyone standing up at the end, like the man looking at his child and his child looks over him with pride, and like that whole kind of shoehorned in sort of little bit of story for him. And that sort of thing, I think, is out of date. Now, bear in mind, I watched the Trial of Chicago 7 pretty much straight after I watched Judas and the Black Messiah. And that is a very jarring tone shift for something that is dealing with quite a similar concept. It really made the Trial of Chicago 7 feel like the comedy version of this. It was like, here's people who are kind of dying in a war zone on American streets, and then here's some people playing at protesting and having fun with it. And that, just because of the way I watched them, that did not lend itself well to the Chicago 7. And I will say, to their credit, to Aaron Sorkin's credit, they acknowledge that in the film. In the Trial of the Chicago 7, we see the character Steele, the black guy, basically, who is treated totally differently. And he even says at some point, like, to you, this is just fun to you guys. This is like our lives, but this is just a publicity for you. He says it better written than that. But I like that they kind of acknowledge that within the film. It's like, hey, we're telling this story. We appreciate there are other bigger stories to be told.
Yeah.
After I watched it, I read all about the case, and I was reading about the different people and what they did after and stuff like that. It totally grabbed me and got my interest. That is obviously a good thing, I think. But like I say, it just felt very kind of slick and Aaron Sorkin, and it's just... sometimes you need a bit more grit, a bit more dirt, which is, I think, what we're going to get when we talk about something like Judas and the Black Messiah.
I think the best way to describe this film is it's a film that, even in any other year, would always be nominated for Best Picture, but would never stand a chance in hell of winning it. And that's fine, it's just solid, enjoyable. I could watch this with my mum, and I'm sure she'd enjoy it, and I enjoyed it. I give it a low 8 out of 10, which I think is quite generous, but I did find it very entertaining and quite informative.
I gave it an 8. I guess it would be a low 8, yeah. I agree with that. And this does feel like something that could have been made in 1991. I think it would have been largely the same.
Exactly, yeah.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But like I say, I think it's interesting that this has been nominated alongside other things that are looking at American society and problems in American society. Yeah. And this is the one that feels old-fashioned and a kind of bit out of style.
Next up, what do you think is the third least diverse film of the bunch this year, Alan?
Nomadland.
No. I've gone with The Father next.
Must be Nomadland next then, because there's only 4 people in it, so there can't be that many boxes to be getting ticked.
I've got 8 points down for The Father.
Okay, you got an old man with dementia. That must be at least 2 points.
Well, you've got Anthony Hopkins is over 70. The character is over 70 and disabled. Yes, he's Welsh. Just kidding.
There's a woman in it. There's 3 women in it, prominently.
Yes. So that's 2 points there. Well, 4 because the characters as well. And the subject matter, of course, being about that disability. So that's totted up to a total of 8 points using my little spreadsheet here. When I first loaded this film up, which was the first film I watched after the Best Picture nominations had come in, I think I'd seen half of the films already, and I was like, right, I better watch these other 4. So this was like the first one I watched knowing it was up for the Oscar. But it was a film that I wanted to see anyway. I'd heard good things. It's got Olivia Colman in it. It was annoying me initially. I didn't dislike it, but I was getting a bit annoyed. This kind of is all very obvious, and I feel like I've seen it before. You know, the whole thing of like the actors being swapped out for different actors and so on. And I don't really know what happened, but somewhere along the line, watching it, I just got really into it. And it just drew me in. I just went with it, and I found it incredibly powerful. I think it completely and utterly worked on the emotional level it was trying to evoke from me. And to be honest, I think 90% of that is Anthony Hopkins, and I genuinely think this might be a career best performance from him. I will say that I've not seen, you know, the full body of his work, nothing close to it. I've seen the kind of big, obvious Anthony Hopkins films everyone's seen, and maybe one or two others. But this is the first time I've watched Anthony Hopkins in something and been blown away by it. I thought he was just phenomenal, and it felt like a culmination of, you know, a career as an actor just kind of coming together in this role. I thought he was incredible.
I largely agree with you there. I think what suddenly pulled you in, or whatever is. I don't think there's anything special here. I think it's just really well done. It's completely evocative, and that performance draws you in. I think the writing is excellent in that it's all very natural, but also just the smallest things being dripped out going, hang on, that's a bit odd. What's going on here? Because you know how we kind of joke about how I like films where nothing happens?
Yes.
Well, this is the kind of epitome of that. Like, nothing really happens, but it's so engaging. Yeah, I found it very, emotionally engaging. I haven't had experience with anyone with dementia at all, so it's not something I related to particularly, but I still was totally on board with it. And obviously this is based on a play that has been performed for quite some time and is done very well. Yeah, it
felt like a play, yeah.
It totally feels like a film play. I don't think that's necessarily a failing, because I think, although it's not cinematic, it is still beautifully shot. It's very nicely put together.
It works.
And I think that style where we're trapped in the room or whatever really aids it. I also think that this probably works better than the play. Obviously, I haven't seen the play, so I'm sort of shooting in the dark there, but it feels like the sort of performance we get here that's got a level of subtlety to it you would struggle to get on a stage. I think on a stage, everything has to be a bit bigger and a bit more obvious. Yeah. And I'm not sure if I would appreciate it the same amount if I was, 30 feet away. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm sure a good stage actor could just nail it, but that's why you want someone like Anthony Hopkins, an experienced screen actor, to just pull that together. And Olivia Colman, really beautiful performance as well.
Yeah. I thought everyone...
Oh, Imogen Poots, by the way.
I love Imogen Poots.
What do I know her from? Because I'm sure I recognise her. I can't place it.
She's in a lot of quite off-kilter, weird films, or generally quite small little indie things. She was actually, Alan, in the most recent second remake of Black Christmas.
Have we watched that?
No. But it's the sort of thing you might have just randomly taken it upon yourself to watch. And of course Mark Gatiss is here, who can go either way. But I think he's perfect here. He's got the whole sinister, nasty side down, but then equally, when you see him as a revealed for what he is, I won't give too blatant spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen it, but he completely plays the other, flip side of the coin, perfectly.
I don't know. I felt more sinister then.
Really?
It's creepy. Yeah.
Really? Well, that's what I mean. I didn't find that, and I think that's something that would be quite easy to. It felt like a David Lynch movie, except I didn't hate it. That's kind of like, imagine a David Lynch movie with actual character arcs and like structure and actual, writing.
Yeah,
that's what this is. And then like we say, the acting really just elevates it. So I really liked The Father a lot.
I did as well.
And I was very pleased to see that Anthony Hopkins won Best Actor at the BAFTAs last night. At the time of recording, it is the day after the BAFTAs. Because, Chadwick Boseman is the favourite to win. And I think he probably will win at the Oscars, but I do think Anthony Hopkins deserves it.
I haven't seen the film that Chadwick Boseman is in, and neither has anyone else. So
he's fine. I've seen it. He's fine in it. But anyway, that's The Father. I give it an 8 out of 10, but a really strong 8.
Yeah, I mean, I gave it what I think is going to be a generous 9.
Oh, wow.
But like I say, I was totally, on an emotional level, it totally won me over, and couldn't fault it.
Yeah. Okay, next up, diversity-wise, Alan, using my metric here, what do you think it is?
Nomadland.
Nope. It's Judas and the Black Messiah.
What? But there's loads of black people in that.
That's the problem. They went all in on black people. There's no other diversity in this film. It's just black people. So there are a couple of women, but that only tops up to a total of 13 points, which is a lot more than now. But that's because there are also, black directors and producers behind the camera, which I've accounted for. Yes, Judas and the Black Messiah, another based on a true story film.
Yes, there's quite a few of those in these things.
From producer Ryan Coogler. It's a very stylish film, very well made, well acted.
Yeah.
I can't say I enjoyed it particularly. I found it quite dull. I don't know. I never connected with this. I found Jesse from Breaking Bad to be the most kind of compelling character, which might be because I'm racist.
Jesse Plemons is a great actor, though. Yeah,
I love
something about it.
Yeah. I love Jesse Plemons, and there's great actors in this other than him. But I found his character and what he was dealing with kind of more interesting. But then obviously they kind of halfway through make out that, oh no, he is racist as well. He's just a kind of different sort of racist.
He's just not as evil as racist, but just a bit more societally racist.
I mean, I don't know. Look, like I say, well made, gorgeous cinematography. It was just very dry, and I found it very long. And there were a lot of scenes that didn't really go anywhere. And, with it being based on real life, it did fall prey to a lot of those traps that, Trial of the Chicago 7, for example, didn't fall prey to. Just little tangents that don't really go anywhere, that are just thrown in.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I was engaged with it. I didn't have too much of a problem with that. All the bits with Fred Hampton, the Daniel Kaluuya character, and his girlfriend, I guess. I don't think they get married at any point, do they? But the woman, his partner, all that stuff was boring, and I didn't feel like I really needed to get into his mind, because for me, this was about Bill O'Neill, the Lakeith Stanfield character.
I completely agree. I've made a note here: is Daniel Kaluuya the lead? Because he's up for all these lead actor awards, and I don't think he is the lead in this film. I think Lakeith Stanfield is.
Not all. In fact, in the Oscars, they've both been nominated as supporting actor.
Yeah,
which
bizarre,
doesn't make any sense, because who the hell is the lead then?
Yeah, it's very weird.
Because I could make an argument for Daniel Kaluuya to be the lead, but I wouldn't agree with it. You know what I mean? But yeah, so Lakeith Stanfield is definitely the lead character in this. And I like that journey, that character. I like you're telling because it is the Fred Hampton story, but you're telling it from just a slightly off kilter angle, I guess.
Yeah.
With that Judas and the Jesus kind of metaphor that only really comes into play in the title. It's all about the insidiousness of the FBI and all that, which you get in the Trial of Chicago 7 as well. And obviously with recent events in America particularly, it's all good timing for all this stuff. I think it played on all those levels that it was aiming to. I found it very interesting. Again, I didn't actually know the story previously. It was based on a true story. I didn't know anything about it. Yeah, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I thought the bits where we see William O'Neill being interviewed, like on a kind of flashback sense, or flash forward sense, I don't know if that really added anything to it. It didn't feel like it brought anything to it. Yeah, I know what you mean. It engaged me enough.
Yeah, certain scenes were phenomenally entertaining, like the one at the start with what's his name being a kind of con man trying to steal someone's car, for example. That kind of thing I liked, but like you say, there were just so many scenes dotted around in between those scenes that stopped it dead for me. Yeah,
well, Daniel Kaluuya's going off giving speeches and stuff, very passionate rhetoric, and that really worked for me. In fact, watching this and then watching Trial of Chicago 7 in one day, it really, like, it made me think, like, don't you wish that you had something that you were passionate about? Doesn't it feel like that would be a great thing to have? Like, I appreciate this is quite from a negative point of view, as in they're being oppressed and fighting for freedom and everything.
Alan, I've got that.
Oh, have you? What's your passion?
The Simpsons. I just go around talking about The Simpsons and giving speeches on when The Simpsons went bad, what went wrong with the writing. I
do wish sometimes. Obviously, I have a very comfortable background, a very comfortable life, but there is a sense of like, God, I wish I had something to rally against.
A cause. You're always rallying against things.
Like what? You're
rallying against marriage and monogamy and.
Yeah, maybe that's why. That's the only sort of thing I can get passionate about, because I'm not oppressed in any way, so I need to find something that's oppressing. Otherwise, I'll feel left out. But yeah, I think it does inflame a certain passion in me. These kind of films are like, yeah, go on, do it. And then obviously I don't have that in my personal life to follow through with.
Yeah. Look, Judas and the Black Messiah is my least favourite of the Best Picture nominations this year. But I give it a sturdy 6 out of 10. And I think that speaks to the quality of, films this year. They're all pretty solid. It is arguably the most Senior Sevens year we've ever had at the Oscars, because everything, and I think this is a product of the pandemic, really, everything's kind of just decent, There's nothing that's, not to spoil anything, but there's nothing that really blew me away this year, but there's nothing that I hated either. It's all just kind of like, yeah, cool. This is the worst one for me, and it's still a really well-made film. I just found it far too long. Would have liked the edit to be tightened up a bit. And so yeah, 6 out of 10 from me. Do you want to rate it?
I gave it a 7. Sturdy 7. I think we've already touched on all my preferred films. I think we're on a downhill slide now.
Really?
So yeah, we'll see where we go. But yeah, it's a very solid 7. I enjoyed this film, and I think it was not made for me, and I still enjoyed it. If you know what I mean.
It's obviously not made for me, although none of these films were made for me, and I enjoyed a lot of them.
But that's an interesting point, though. Like, watching something like this, or the Trial of Chicago 7, particularly if you're in a more obvious target for that. Say you're a young black man living in America.
Yeah.
Do you watch Judas and the Black Messiah and go, fuck yeah, I'm stirred, I want to fight against the depression that I'm still suffering now, which would be fair, I think? Or is the message of these films like, hey, look how bad it was in the 60s, all right? You don't know how good it is anymore. Because it used to be so much more racist. So, like, let's appreciate what we got. Is that the sort of subtle hidden message that's Hollywood is pumping out at the moment? Or is it just inflaming passion?
I think it's meant to be the former. This is a historic film. It's the first all-black producing team to be up for Best Picture ever.
Oh, okay.
So it's come from black voices, and I doubt, based on what Ryan Coogler seems to be like, I doubt they would intentionally put the latter message out. But I don't know. Maybe it's a bit of both.
I think that makes a difference, doesn't it? It's coming from a place of kind of personal passion rather than, oh, this will sell. Get this out. People, there's a market for this.
Right. So we're now at the halfway mark for this year's films. So I'd just like to take a moment
to apologise.
I really should get the door and let Japanese Bond in, but I just not in the mood today, Alan. It's a serious. We're dealing with diversity in serious films, so we can stay out there.
So Eddie Murphy's doing it instead.
No, I'd just like to take a moment to thank our Patreon subscribers.
Yeah.
We have got 2 new Patreon subscribers since we made the switch over to our new tiered system recently. So big, huge thank you to Ryan Stewart and Luke Brown, our 2 new subscribers.
Ooh.
And
thank you very much.
Of course, we added new tiers, so we went from a £1 tier to a whole variety of tiers, and many of our people who were subscribed have already stepped in and upped their pledge and moved up to the next tier. So I'd just like to say thanks to George Lowes, Sam Bath, Kieran Bartlett, William Fletcher, BG, Philip Knowlton-Smith, Peter McCormick, Hunter Jameson, Trevor Boughton, Joe Johnston, Lewis, Tom Patton, and Chris Marshall, who have all stepped up their pledge there. It means a lot.
Thank you very much.
Huge thanks to everyone for your continued support.
A couple of you listening right now on the live thing, I recognise some names. So.
Yes.
That's amazing. Well, great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We do appreciate it.
And hopefully you will appreciate the first of our new Diminisodes, which will have gone out by the time this episode goes out, but for those of you listening live, hasn't gone out yet. Okay, anyway, next film on the list. What do you think it is, Alan? We've got 4 left. Which one do you think is the least? Yeah, it's Nomadland.
There's 2 people in it. They're both white. I mean, okay, go on.
We've got a woman in the lead.
She's old, but not old enough for your box ticking.
Yeah, I've got 2 supporting women down here, so that's another 2 points. I mean, there's more than 2, but it maxes out at 2.
I think there's only 2 people in this film, but go on.
Is the lead character from an underrepresented group? Yes, she is a woman.
A woman.
And she is essentially homeless, Alan. I've counted that. She is a nomad. She lives in a van.
She's houseless, not homeless.
And there are 2 more points on the table because there are 2 or more supporting actors who are also homeless, houseless. Because, as I don't know if you are aware, the vast majority of the people in this film were not actors. They were just kind of real people out in these things that Frances McDormand was. Yeah. So that's some points there. The subject matter is, of course, about that whole community. And then we've got a load of points because more than half or more of the producers are women, half or more of the writers are women. The director is, of course, a woman of colour. So, yeah, it's scooped up a load of behind-the-camera points as well. 15 diversity points for Nomadland.
Let me throw some stuff out at you. First of all, the film, I enjoyed it on the level that it was working on, I think.
This is, of course, the favourite to win this year. It's almost certainly going to be the winner of Best Picture.
Is that right? That's interesting.
It is interesting, isn't it? But then I don't know if any film strikes me like that should win kind of more than it.
My first, I could tell that the most of the supporting cast there weren't actors, and I thought, oh yeah, they've got Frances McDormand, they've taken her into this community and they're just filming her, like, see what happens, improv a bit.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, fair enough, bit of cinema unawareté, I guess. But I didn't realise that it was unawareté until afterward.
Well, they knew they were being filmed for a film, so it's skirting the edge of unawareté.
But well, that's it. But they thought Frances McDormand was a real houseless woman, right?
I don't know how they did it. Is that what they did?
Yeah, because that's what I was reading, that she went and lived in this community, or at least...
Oh, so they thought it was like a documentary?
Well, I don't know what they thought, but yeah, they didn't realise that it's famous actor or indeed an actor. When she's telling them the story of like, oh yeah, my husband died with this, they think she's a real person telling them her life story.
Wow, so it is true cinema unawareté. Excellent.
Well, it is. But that really, when I read that afterwards, it really put a dent in it for me because, well, to sort of, it's not exactly a spoiler, but something happens quite near the end, is that another guy who is a real person and lives this life, basically, relates to her what is a very obviously difficult thing for him to say, where he's talking about the fact that his son has committed suicide and it's obviously had a massive effect on his life.
Yeah.
And he's saying it to her because he thinks that she's relating to him and that she's had a similar experience, that they've connected and she's got to know him over a long period of time. He does know he's being filmed, yes, but to lie to someone, to trick them into being emotionally open with you, just seems really distasteful for the sake of making a film. I found it really disgusting.
Is it tricking someone?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that is tricking someone.
But I don't know the full details behind like how it was made and everything. But
I'd have to know the ins and outs of it. When I watched it, I just assumed it was like Werner Herzog style, and they just found real people, said, "Look, we're making a film. We're just going to kind of just be yourself, and this actor's going to interact with you." I kind of assumed that's what they did, but that's really interesting to hear what you just said.
Well, the thing I read was that guy specifically, she told him afterwards because she felt bad that that he just opened his heart.
Well, I guess how does he feel about it? Is he happy with that being in the film, or would he rather it isn't?
Well, I don't know. He must have, but I still think it's ethically filthy. Basically.
But I guess they weren't going after him being like, we're going to get him to spill his secrets to us. I imagine he just offered it up one day. I don't know. It's
I believe that as well. But he only felt comfortable doing that because they bonded over whatever.
But you are a proponent of ghosting women that you don't get along with on Tinder, aren't you, Alan? So
is that
not the same thing?
This conversation?
Is that not the same thing?
About?
You'll form an intimate bond with someone, and then just it was all a sham.
I don't ghost people if I've formed an intimate bond with them. I ghost them if we've had a brief conversation and it's not going anywhere.
They thought they formed an intimate bond with you.
Well, first of all, no, they don't. Second of all, no, that's not the same. So I don't really know where you're going with this. Frances McDormand, yeah, very good, excellent performance. I expect that of her. David Strathairn, really nice. I expect that of him. Didn't blow me away because I feel like you're going to get quite a good realistic performance if you're just in the reality and improving. I don't know. I think that's a lot. I mean, it's hard work in the sense of sort of throwing yourself into it, but I don't think it's hard work as in acting.
Yeah, but you have to be capable of doing that and keeping up, and not every actor can do that.
I don't know. I don't think it's that difficult, frankly, but
I think it's a skill, and I think it's a skill not every actor has. I know what you're saying. Like, it's gonna, you throw yourself into that situation, you're gonna unlock, the more powerful, strong, emotive acting far more easily. I don't think that's to say it doesn't have value.
If going into a situation, into a job, and then pretending that you like the people there is great acting, then give me an Oscar, because I've done it everywhere I've ever worked. And so does everyone else.
Yeah, but have you done it well?
They think I like them. That's the...
I don't know. I think they think you're quite standoffish.
Look, when my boss told me about his son committing suicide, and then I snuck off to the bathroom so I could laugh at his emotional openness behind his back, I should have got an Oscar.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I don't do that. I get very snippy and sarcastic with people at work, and just kind of let my disdain shine through. So yeah, fair play.
Yeah,
take your Oscar.
Can I ask, when they were filming this, did they go to Amazon and go, hey, we're looking for like the real kind of people in a really bad situation who are desperate. Can we film in your factory? It feels like it'd be the perfect place. Because it very much just says people work at Amazon because they're absolutely desperate and there's nothing else available.
Yeah, well, I think there's truth to that. But it does seem like Amazon are involved in the film beyond simple fair use. So... yeah. Talking about Amazon, they have a film up for Best Picture this year that we haven't spoken about yet.
Yes.
We'll touch on that when we get there. So yeah, Nomadland. I don't have much to say about it, really. I thought it was a really bog standard kind of character piece, but, made well. I enjoyed it. Felt like perhaps the pieces were there to make something more than it was, but decent effort all round. I'd give it a 7 out of 10. Quite a sturdy 7.
I mean, I liked lots of elements of it. I've got a few questions about it. There's a bit of a theme in a lot of the nominees this year of like sort of gritty reality with kind of forgetting to put a story in there. There's a lot of journeys without destinations. That is what I've noticed.
That was it. I just needed a bit more narrative. And it didn't feel like it really was trying to tell one, and I guess that's fine, but it's not going to connect with me.
Yes, so I gave it a 6.
I do think it's interesting that it is the favourite to win this year. I think it's just maybe the least divisive,
right?
Because The Father is a much better made film, but it's also very much about privileged white people, so that's going to piss a load of people off. Mank is that, but not as interesting. The Trial of the Chicago 7, it's Aaron Sorkin. People are sick of him. I think Nomadland is arguably the film that everyone's going to be kind of like, it's everyone's second or third pick, as we've spoken about in our previous Oscar.
Yeah, I think you're probably onto something there.
Yeah. Right, next up on our diversity checklist. So this is our third most diverse film this year.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think it is?
I think it's going to be A Promising Young Woman.
Correct. Yes, it is about a woman in the lead. There is a prominent racial minority supporting actor who is also trans. That's an extra point right there. That's the only film to tick a box there.
Is there? Oh, I don't know that.
Yeah, Laverne Cox.
I didn't know that. Is that a clue in the name? I didn't know. What?
Laverne Cox from... I know her from Orange is the New Black.
Yeah, I knew she was in that. I've never actually seen her in anything, I don't think.
There's another woman, Alison Brie. The subject matter is, of course, about women's issues.
Is that extra points?
Yeah. That's an underrepresented group. I've actually given her 2 there. One for it being about being a woman, and one for the kind of mental health abuse aspect of it all. And beyond that, we have... again, we've ticked boxes with a female director, writer, producing team. So, 16 points I've given this. One more than Nomadland. Yeah, anyway, Promising Young Woman. This is perhaps the only film on this list that I watched prior to hearing the Best Picture nominations that wasn't a sort of preemptive, that's probably going to be up for Best Picture, I better watch it.
You just watched this because you thought you might enjoy it?
Yeah. Basically, yeah. I guess Mank as well, but the difference between this and Mank is I did actually really enjoy this one. I was surprised how much. And when I was watching it, I sort of said, like, I said to my girlfriend, like, you know what? Like, I bet this sneaks a sneaky best screenplay nomination. It's going to be one of those films that, you know, gets a little bit of love in that category, but that'll be it. And she was like, no, it won't get anywhere near the Oscars. It's nominated in every fucking category, practically. It's all over the Oscars. Carey Mulligan's the favourite to win Best Lead Actress, apparently. So I think that is maybe a sign of the year we've had and no films coming out. But that's all right with me, because straight up, I loved this film. I really enjoyed it. I'm surprised to find that a lot of people found the structure off-putting. I didn't notice the structure at all, personally, and a lot of people didn't like the tonal shift, particularly with the ending. And again, I didn't really notice any tonal shift myself, other than there's one scene that's quite comedic in a way that feels out of place. But again, I went with it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I felt like quite dark. It's engaging with a dark sense of humour all the way through. I think there's not too much.
Yeah, exactly.
It's jarring enough to be shocking, which it's supposed to be.
Yeah, but that's it. It has had scenes like that earlier, you know, like McLovin, for example. I kind of went into this film thinking, you know, this is about a woman who I was expecting a kind of revenge, you know, thriller, and I was expecting a kind of this woman takes men home and murders them horror movie territory, and it's not really that at all. Which is weird, because I keep hearing people who've seen it referring to it that way, and it's like, what, do you think she was murdering all those men? Did you not watch the film?
Sort of go to great lengths to show that she doesn't.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
They obviously haven't watched the film. So.
The farthest she goes with any of it is, she does hire a man to kill a guy in probably my favourite scene in the film, actually. She does hire a hitman. And then go to Alfred Molina's house, and he's there in one of his patented scene-stealing
like
extended
Molina,
cameos in one scene. Yeah, like in Boogie Nights when they go to his house and he just steals the film. It's the same thing here. He's a lawyer who got a load of rapists off the hook on, you know, not technicalities exactly, but he knew better. And she goes to his house, and she's basically there to, like, let a hitman in to kill him for doing awful things, and he just basically breaks down, and he's like, I can't sleep, I've done terrible things, you know, forgive me, like, I don't deserve it, I'll take whatever you know want to do to me. And I just thought it was such an interesting
the most unrealistic part of the film.
Oh, it's incredibly unrealistic.
Lawyer with a conscience.
But I like that. I like seeing Alfred Molina at the end of his tether, and I like seeing the breakdown. I just think he's such a good actor that he. Yeah, and it's not what you're expecting, and the whole film. I mean, to play into what the film's about, you know, I think throughout it's teasing this Quentin Tarantino style cathartic revenge, and it never really lets you have it. You know, it's taking it away all of a sudden, and it's kind of like, look, you really wanted to see this guy get his head bashed in, but you're not going to get that, and that's quite a hollow pursuit, and here's why, and XYZ. I thought it worked really well, but yeah.
I think I don't. That was the problem. My problem with this film. I didn't particularly like this film. I will grant you there is quite a few things to like here, but I was frustrated by the whole thing ultimately, and I don't think I've ever seen a film where I just had related to the characters less. I just felt like there was nothing here for me at all, and I appreciate. This is obviously dealing with subject matter that is going to mean a lot more to women, right? I get that.
Yeah.
But this felt like the male characters in this were so one-dimensional and simplistic that I thought that it was going to be a joke, like that it was deliberate, kind of like, hey, look, men have written and directed films for years and the women are crap characters, so we're going to make a film where the men are all crap one-dimensional characters. And maybe that's part of it, but I don't feel like that paid off in any way. I just think it was not particularly well written, and because, you know, so much of it is about like, we do these things when we're drunk, and you know how much I hate drunk people.
But you should have been on her side then, surely. She wasn't getting drunk anyway, you know, she was avenging her friend who wasn't.
Oh yeah, I'm not talking about her as a character, but okay, so her as a character I was also frustrated by. Again, I was always just waiting for this second layer. I was waiting for it to not just be this superficial kind of vengeance thing, and it was so close to being that, so close to getting somewhere, and it never quite did.
Well, I don't think it is a superficial vengeance thing at all, actually. I think, I don't like superficial revenge movies because I ethically really clash with them. The likes of your Lucky Number 11, films that are all about some person tracking someone down to get revenge on them, for some wrong they did. I don't believe that murdering someone in cold blood is ever justified, really, even if they've done horrible things to you. And I find it very Taken, again, like there's so many of these films that I watch, and morally and ethically I just can't quite get on board with them. And I was very aware going into this film that I might be getting into that territory. I Spit on Your Grave is the kind of obvious exploitation counterpart for this film. And I think it went the other way, and it did what I like, which is it's a character who's pursuing vengeance, but they've allowed it to kind of consume themselves to the point that they are just a kind of hollow, empty shell of a person. They're not who they used to be. It's not going to bring them happiness ultimately. And, the difference is this film isn't saying that Carey Mulligan's character is wrong to have gone down this rabbit hole. It's saying, look at the knock-on effects of what these guys did. Look at how it's fucked up people beyond,
Yeah, and I just wanted that to be explored a bit more somehow, and I never quite got what I wanted out of this, and I was always expecting something more to happen. I felt like we were leading to something more, and I never got that. All the ingredients that were coming into place that I was like, okay, I'm going to let that one off because I think it's leading somewhere, and then it never went anywhere. So things like Alfred Molina as a lawyer who is not just feeling guilty about things he's done, but really knew very specifically the case she was talking about before she was even told him, which is just weird. Like, there was this one case that it doesn't make any sense. And then even when this is a spoiler alert, right, like as in a massive spoiler alert, it's the ending of the film. When the ending of the film comes along, and that happens, I was really like, that is a great ending. It's kind of the ultimate point of her destructive journey. She is thrashing out other people, but ultimately she's hurting herself. This is all very self-destructive behavior. What she's doing, putting herself into dangerous situations deliberately, I guess hoping for something to happen. What exactly, I don't know. And that's what I mean. I don't think we ever investigate any of that. Is she putting herself into these situations hoping so she can, basically she tells these guys off, that's what she does really. Yeah. Is she hoping one day they'll try and fight her and she'll have a kind of that reason to fight back and actually hurt someone? Is she trying to do that?
I think the ending, when she, goes to elaborate lengths to attack this guy who, committed this rape, I think the implication even there isn't that she's planning to murder him. She's going to, Inglourious Bastards him, surely. She's going to carve, something onto his body so that people know what he's done. And
the victim's name. Yeah, so, and then, so basically at that point, when that happens, the ending, which I'm not going to quite spoil, I thought this is a great ending.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I had the same thought, yeah.
But then we get this extra scene that just ruined it for me. Not ruined it, but just took the edge off for me, where this could have been a really interesting character development, and quite ambiguous, like what's going on in her head. It's a real study of mental health. It's a study of survivor's guilt. And Bo Burnham, I mean, what's that about?
Well, I really like the cast in this film, and I think that did a great deal to carry me through. I would go so far as to say this is my favourite assembly of actors in any of the films this year.
There's some good actors here, but Clancy Brown and Jennifer Coolidge basically don't do anything.
Yeah, Clancy Brown, but he's there. I love him. You've got your Alison Brie.
I really actually didn't like Alison Brie in this. I didn't think she was very good. I thought it was quite not a crap performance, but I didn't think it was a good performance.
I thought it was good. I thought she showed a side of her that I'll give you, it's quite a two-dimensional character, but
they're all characters are, though. That's
fine. They're chess pieces. You've got McLovin. You've got the guy out of Veep that I like. I really enjoyed the cast, actually, and of course Carey Mulligan, who I thought was great.
I also didn't think particularly she was doing a solid performance, but didn't blow me away in any way.
I'm amazed to find she's the favourite to win the Oscar for lead actress, and I think that, again, I think that's a symptom of no films coming out during the pandemic more than anything. And I'm still not convinced she will. I think Frances McDormand's going to win. But anyway, I thought she was good, though. Maybe not Oscar-worthy, but it's not her fault she got nominated, is it?
Yeah, I wouldn't hold it against her, but...
I thought she played that role about as well as she could, you know? It wasn't like... It's just that role isn't necessarily one that...
But that's it. I think... Do you know what I think this comes down to? I don't particularly like the writing. I think the writing is... I think it's kind of immature. And not in a childish way, but I just mean it's not very sophisticated writing. I think it's really basic, simple stuff.
Look, I went into this, as I say, expecting a kind of I Spit on Your Grave-esque revenge thriller. And I think taken through that lens, I didn't go into this expecting a Best Picture nominated drama.
Fair enough, yeah.
So for me, this was like a really elevated B movie. And on that level, I think it's far surpassing the quality that I expect. Had I gone into this thinking, oh yeah, Oscar drama, Oscar buzz, then yeah, I might be a bit more critical of the... Because yeah, it is quite simplistic and two-dimensional, but I think that's okay. I don't think it's meant to be deeper than that.
Yeah.
Well, like I say, I found it really entertaining. It's my favourite film of the nominees this year, in fact. I give it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I found it very frustrating. And I think it's because it's one of those experiences where like it's just so close to being better. And I feel like it could be better. So I gave it a 5, which I think might be my worst score of the lot.
That's so mean.
Yeah, maybe, but that's what you get. No, actually, just to end with a positive note, I thought it was really nicely directed, actually. To say I'm slightly slagging off Emerald Fennell's writing. I thought it was without doing anything groundbreaking or trying to be clever. It just did the really nice. It's some really nice visuals, some good framing, and all that sort of stuff. Some interesting stuff. So yeah, I was all right with that.
Okay, next up, which one do you think is the second most diverse film of the year, Alan?
Well, so we got 2 left, right? So we got
Minari, and we've got
Minari, which is full of foreigners, so that's going to be loads of boxes for you. And we've got Sound of Metal, which is full of deaf people, so that's got us to tick some boxes as well. I'll think the least diverse of those is Minari.
Yeah, correct. Minari. Minari, of course, has a whole load of South Korean actors and characters. There is, of course, the grandma character who's over the age of 70 and has Alzheimer's again or something. Is it Alzheimer's?
I
only watched this the other day. She has a stroke, that's it. So she is disabled because it affects her beyond just a one-off thing. And of course, the subject matter is about the immigrant experience in America, the American dream. Not to mention, again, the director, the writers, the producers, there's lots of people behind the camera there. So I gave it 19 diversity points, which is almost 4 times as many as Mank. Minari was one of the last ones of these films that I watched. If I was the second to last film that I watched, I wasn't that impressed. Like, I don't know, I thought I was going to like this film a lot more than I did, I think.
All the way through, I was thinking, this feels like a true story that they've forgotten to turn into an actual plot. Like, it is just that classic stuff. And then, when I was reading about it afterwards, I looked at the director and it said, the child of Korean immigrants brought up on a rural farm in Kansas or whatever. It's like, right. So you're the little kid in this film.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is you think this is interesting because it's about people you know and you forgot that other people don't know them.
As it was going by, I was engaged by it. I found it interesting. I thought it was really technically well made. The acting, the cinematography, the music, all that stuff was really good. But at the end of it, I was just left thinking, what was the point in that film? What is the purpose? What is it trying to say? And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, right, there's loads of terrible writing in that film. There's loads of stuff that just doesn't go anywhere, which is, I think, what you're saying about little things that are obviously just from true life. And it reminded me of, I don't want to throw him under the bus, but it reminded me of someone that we went to university with who was making a film about his childhood and was like insistent on getting a Game Boy Advance from someone because it was the game console he played on the drive to this event that the film was based on. And it was just like, this story that you're telling is timeless. It, like, setting it in the year 2001 or whatever it is pointless. It doesn't gain anything by being a period piece. except you're making life harder for yourself because now you have to find like things of the era. And this felt like the same thing. Like the young child has a heart condition, but it doesn't like inform the character or go anywhere
or mean anything. Yeah.
At best, it is a really like imminent ticking clock on the kids' like health. That means that like the parents have to kind of watch over him. I mean, I don't know.
It's just another form of stress in their lives, isn't it?
Yeah, but it doesn't. And there's so many details like that just don't go anywhere. I mean, frankly, the fact that it's set again, it's a period piece. I don't think that really gives it anything. I think you could make this film set now and it'd be the same film, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is the farming community in America different now? I don't know. But
Probably don't get any small farms anymore. But also, it wound me up because it was just like, there's this guy who's just trying to do something with his life. He wants to do something a bit less boring than looking at chickens' arses.
Look, I will tell you, Alan, being a chicken sexer is one of the best paid jobs in the world, certainly in the UK. Like, there's a shortage of chicken sexers. Anyone who wants to do that, I think it's a bit more depressing than in the film. I think you're literally like chucking chicks into like an incinerator. Like, just you go, right, that one's male, it's fine. That one's female, it's fine. Oh, this one's a man, chuck it into the grinder, blood splurts up. Because that's it. They just go through killing all the male chickens, which I don't think they... Do they mention that in this film? It's a pretty grim aspect of the meat industry that, you know, they try and keep on the DL. But that job in particular is really well paid because there's a shortage, because no one wants to be the person who, you know, assigns thousands and thousands of little cute fluffy chicks to a grisly pointless death every day. And, you know, it's production line work, it's dull, it's boring, and it really takes a toll on people's mental health, apparently, more than typical abattoir work. So you get paid a good like 40 grand starting salary for that. More if you that's UK money. More if you you know, do it well.
What annoyed me about it was that like he's just trying to do something, and perhaps he's a little bit naive about what he needs to get out there. He's very much like of the attitude like, I'll just get out and try it, it'll be fine. But he's working hard, and then it's just his wife is just like a constant thorn in his side, just going, oh, this is shit. He seems to have at least put some thought into it, although it doesn't seem to be sharing that with his wife particularly. She kind of just gets taken by surprise that they're living in a trailer. And then he says, oh, well, look, I'll do a compromise. I can have my farm, you can have your mother here. And obviously, and then the mother turns up, she's total degenerate. She starts teaching the kids how to gamble, all that. She's the only sort of the funny one in the whole thing. And actually, and the acting in general was good, but you know, the grandma, really
very good,
pulls it all together.
Very few performances from these films struck me as being incredible. You know, there's very few I'd point to as like, oh, give them the Oscar. And again, I think maybe that's a sign of the year we've had. I don't know. I think the grandma in this film would be up for an Oscar in a typical year. I don't know if she'd be the favourite to win it. She almost certainly is going to win. Yoo Jung-yoon is her name. I don't know. I'm looking at the nominees now for supporting actress. We've got Yoo Jung-yoon, Maria Baklava from Borat 2, Amanda Seyfried, Glenn Close, Olivia Colman. Out of those, I'd give it to Olivia Colman, but I appreciate that, you know. I don't have much to say about Minari. Have we rated it?
No.
We haven't, have we?
No,
I give it a 6 out of 10. I think it was really pleasant to watch. Let it wash over me, but as I say, I just don't think there was a real depth or purpose to it, or a point that it was making.
I also gave it a 6. I feel largely similar.
Okay, well that leaves us with our final film of this discussion, the most diverse of the bunch, Sound of Metal, which I gave 21 diversity points on my little checklist here. Alan, do you want to take a stab at what some of those are?
There's a woman in it.
Yes, there's multiple women in it.
Is there?
Only one prominently.
There's only one proper real character.
There's the friend of his that he kind of makes.
Yeah, who have like 2 lines each.
Yeah. And I will say, you know, I there's a lot of the people at that deaf community who I haven't included here because they're essentially just extras. There's a blind man, for example, and I thought, well, I'm not including him on the chat list as a blind character because he's he's basically an extra. He doesn't do anything in the film. There's a deaf dancer who is a person of colour, and again, he doesn't really. I think he's got one line, so I just thought that doesn't count. But anyway, yeah, I'll go through it. We've got Riz Ahmed. He is, of course, an Asian man, and he is a practicing Muslim. That's 2 points right there. We've got, of course, multiple deaf characters, one more prominently than others. We have a supporting character who is, it would appear to be a lesbian outwardly, so I've included that. We have multiple deaf actors being used for these roles.
I think the guy who is the main guy in the deaf cult, he's not actually deaf, I don't think.
Paul Ritchie.
Yeah, I don't think he's deaf, is he?
No, he is... Paul Ritchie is perfectly able hearing.
Yeah, but his parents were deaf, so he was brought up in...
Yeah, he was raised by deaf parents. He knows sign language, so that's... he is, of course, up for Best Supporting Actor.
Is he? Really?
Well, that's what I thought. Because, like, I was expecting... When I first saw him, I was expecting this big show-stopping performance. I was expecting a real... oh my god, what a revelation this guy is. Where have they been hiding him? And I don't really get it, because he's good, don't get me wrong. It's kind of what we said about everyone. He's very good in this film, but it doesn't go that extra mile. It doesn't jump out at me and make me think, wow, this guy is...
Well, he's not really called on to do anything.
Exactly.
I'll tell you what, though, and maybe this is deliberate. Basically what happens, this guy, he goes deaf until he gets sent to this deaf retreat because he's also an addict. So it's like a safe space for them. They all live in a little community, whatever. I can't tell if this was deliberate or not, but that place seemed like a cult, and he seemed like a very creepy cult leader who did not necessarily have the best interests of the Riz Ahmed character at heart. Yeah, was that deliberate, or was that just my read of it?
I don't know. I've seen takes on this, so, you know...
Because it's certainly not revealed to be anything.
As you say, he goes deaf.
Very immediately, very quickly.
Yeah, it's a sudden it just happens.
Is that a real thing? I don't know.
I think so, yeah. He just sort of goes deaf out of the blue one day, and his hearing deteriorates. And he goes to the doctor. They say, look, we can rebuild stronger, better, faster than before. And they say, like, look, we'll put an implant in your head and you can hear again, but it's going to cost you. Yeah,
we should be clear. This film takes place in a country that doesn't take care of people's healthcare. Only rich people get to be healthy.
He's basically, it's pie in the sky the way the film presents it. He can't get that money together.
Although it's not all. He gets it together really very quickly.
I know, yeah. Well, that's it. It's sort of like, hang on, why didn't you just... When he gets the money together, it's like, oh, why didn't you do that earlier? Like, why have you been acting like this isn't doable? He does have to give up everything to get that money together, but anyway, the point is this treatment is on the table, but then he goes to this church sponsored community of deaf people to live with them, and the guy kind of says, look, here we don't treat being deaf as a disability, it's just a difference, you can't act like you're trying to get better and treat yourself, because, and I do get that, like, he's around other people who don't have that option. Don't be, bragging about how you're going to be hearing again in 4 weeks or whatever. Fair enough. On the other hand, yeah, it's quite detrimental to this guy's health.
But even before that, it starts off with him. He's freaking out, not just because he's going deaf, but also it's going to affect his entire life. But
it's his livelihood. He's a drummer,
musician. So
he's not a big musician. He's a musician. He's a jobbing musician.
They're scraping a living.
Be on the tour, on his little in his RV, touring every day, playing the drums, and they're scraping by.
But then the first thing they do is separate him, like you said, like this woman who has been your support for 4 years and has obviously. You've been clean off drugs for 4 years, so it's obviously been a positive aspect in your life. You can't see her, you're going to have to be separated from her. Like, that does not make any sense at all. You're going through an extremely traumatic experience, and as someone who is a former addict, like, that is a triggering point. Don't take away your one emotional support.
No telephones allowed at the retreat.
I would kind of understand that if it was a rehab centre, because they do that.
I don't know. It was. I don't really.
But that was the whole film. That was my problem with the whole film. All these elements that just like, hang on, does that really make any sense? And we never get to anything. So like, there's a whole bit about So they take him off, and all I'm interested in is like, well, what's happened to her? Because she was obviously reliant on him for emotional support as well. You know, they're obviously like in this kind of this this couple that they're working something through, and then that finally comes back near the end, but we don't really explore that. It's just like, well, she's moved on. It's been 6 weeks or something. She's moved on, mate.
I'm surprised you didn't like that, because it's the kind of thing you're into where characters sort of say, look, we're not right for each other anymore. We were for this brief time, this point in time. Let's just call it a day there, and we had a good time, and it was a beautiful thing, and that's the end of it.
I understand
Spoiler
that.
alert.
And the fact that she had this life on the road, and it was kind of exciting, and as soon as she came away from it, she's like, hang on, no, this is pretty comfortable, actually, this life.
She's a privileged, rich, white girl with a rich dad who, that's kind of...
And I think that is an interesting place, but I think that's a centre point. I think the whole bit with the death cult in the middle didn't add anything, and then, given that the film ends about 45 seconds after that happens, with no real ending... that interesting element doesn't get explored.
I agree. To me, it felt like there's two different films here, and they're kind of not giving either one of them the full attention that it deserves. I think the first half of the film, when he loses his hearing, is phenomenally, gripping stuff. But it's like a horror movie. It's terrifying. It's like, what if this happened to me? It's horrible. But then, when they kind of get into the commune, and he's, enjoying things, it's nice, and the acting is good, and there's, it's very engaging stuff. But I agree, there are a lot of elements where you are questioning if it's something based on reality or just a weird contrived aspect of the writing. The telephone thing, for example. And then suddenly he does just get the money together. He sells his belongings, his RV.
And then he seems to arrange and have surgery and only meet the doctor for about 45 seconds, from what they can tell. And then when they turn him on, it's like, oh, by the way, we should have mentioned this before. It might not even be that good. Like, we probably should have had this conversation before. There'd probably been quite an extensive pre-medical procedure here that we apparently don't have. But then it's America, so you never know. That might just be the way they do it. 40 grand, cheers, I'll do it.
I think they did have it, but he wasn't listening, Alan. Because they do that. There's a point early on in the film where he's consulting with a doctor, and then he tells Olivia Cooke what the doctor said, and it's not really accurate. It's the gist of what he said, but he's obviously not, and because he's deaf, he's not going to pick it all up. So it is possible that's what happened there.
But it was just frustrating. It's like obviously the character is a bit of a mess.
Well, I will say I really liked the way he responds to going deaf, because I found it painfully real. It's like, I think that's sort of but I think that's probably what I do. He doesn't tell anyone, oh, I can't hear. He tries to just go on like nothing's happened and get through a day, and then it's still a problem. Do you know what I mean? He leaves it a good while, and tries to act like nothing's wrong. And I found that it was annoying, but I found it very real, very relatable. I think a lot of people are like that, men in particular. And I don't know. I really liked the sort of first half, as I say, but then there's all these elements. The fact that surgery is on the table kind of caught me off guard. I didn't think he was going to get his hearing back. The second they went down that path, I knew exactly what the film was going to do, like down to the final moment. I knew it was going to be like, right, okay, he's going to... Spoiler alert, everyone, but I knew it was going to be, he kind of decides he doesn't want his hearing because it's better without somehow. And I don't know if that is the point exactly. I think the point is more that he's learning to accept who he is and what he is, and it's I'm sure he'll turn the hearing back on. It's just that he can turn it off. Just and be
you've got to get used to it. I think it's that final moment. I think it's more like sometimes it's nice to turn the world off a little bit. Yeah, I don't know really what it's saying, to be honest. Obviously, if the cochlear implants and all that, it might not give you perfect hearing, but it's going to be some sort of close approximation, I guess. That
even in the film, when he hears it's like when we have Connor on the show. It's that degree of like wonky audio, but it's tinny. It's like a robot talking. But that's fine. Like, I'd take that over being deaf, wouldn't you? It's it's not great, but it'll, I'd definitely take it as an improvement. And I did do a bit of reading into this, and some people with cochlear implants have weighed in on the film, and one that I saw was very offended by it and felt like the film was vilifying implants, which I don't think is the intent. I think they kind of misread it, but I can see how they misread it.
I don't think that's the intent either, but I think the intent is so missed that it's easily misinterpreted.
But they did make the point that there's no way in hell the doctors would discharge him and he'd walk all that way the day after surgery. And he also made the point that Paris, his cochlear implants let him hear perfectly fine, like normal hearing.
Yeah. I guess it depends what's going on. But I like how the doctor turns the implants on and we hear it, and that's part of the sound design. We sort of hear what he's hearing.
The sound design, by the way, is impeccable. That's where this film's going to win the Oscar, and I think rightly so.
Which makes sense, yeah.
And it's not, it's not that the film's doing anything experimental or remarkable. It's just like, it's rare that a film really calls on the sound design to do as much lifting as it does here. But it is slightly beyond that, I think. It's not just as straightforward as what we see on screen being, even before he goes deaf, there is a subtlety to the sound design that I think is unusual for a film like this. When they're driving in the RV on their way to a gig, there's a lot of background driving noise and stuff mixed in there that you wouldn't normally get in a film, and I think that's intentional. It's like, here's all the noise that you're not going to get once deafness hits. So I think it's a rare case where the sound design is the most impressive part of a film. It's very rare that I think people come away saying that. So yeah, absolutely deserves the nomination in that category. But
there is the scene where the doctor turns the implants on and the sound's a bit off. And he's like, oh no, it's really tinny, and she changes something, and he goes, oh yeah, that's still pretty bad. She changes, and then she changes something else. He goes, yeah, it's still a bit tinny. She's like, look, just get used to it, all right? Now get out. I don't know if that's that doesn't feel like that's very realistic. But again, it's America. Maybe his money ran out, so just check him out.
What I thought was going to happen there was, I thought he was going to go, look, can I just come round and do it? And then, because
I thought that as well,
he uses a soundboard,
right?
Exactly. I thought he was going to like up the treble and play, put the bass down like he's playing on his mixing board that we've seen him do, because the film starts with him spraying air, aerosol air in the grooves on his mixing board. I thought like, oh, he's going to use it, and get back to music. But no, I thought it was, I thought it largely works. I feel like we've been quite negative. I think for the most part the film works. It's just a bit messy, too much going on with lack of focus. The acting is good. I know you're a big fan of Riz Ahmed, aren't you, Alan? I always kind of forget that I like him when I haven't seen him in stuff for a while and think, oh, he's not that good. And then I watch him in something and I'm like, no, he is actually pretty good. I take it back. Yeah, fair enough. And I kind of had that experience from it. It was an odd one. I did enjoy it. I felt like the pieces were here for a better film. But yeah, fine. I give it a 7 out of 10 anyway. That's what I'm that's what I'm building to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit more negative because I think it's similar to A Promising Young Woman. I was just sort of frustrated. It felt like we're kind of close to having something here, and then ultimately it just doesn't kind of go really. It doesn't explore what it's talking about. I found that with a lot of these films, in terms of very superficial, one-layer type stories. Anyway, I give it a 5 out of 10.
Wow.
But there's definitely things to like there.
What's your favourite of the year then?
The Father, by quite a long way.
I mean, The Father's my second favourite. I'd go Promising Young Woman slightly ahead of it, but there's not a lot in it. I really like both of them. Then Trial of the Chicago 7, Nomadland, Sound of Metal, Mank, Minari, Judas is my ranking. I think it's a remarkably solid year for the Oscars, to be honest, to say that, like I keep saying, we had a pandemic and nothing came out. And as I say, I do keep a little list of the Best Picture nominees each year that I've seen, and I average out the scores, add them all up and divide them by the number of films there. So what's that, Alan? Is that a mean or a median or a mode?
That's a mean.
And I'll tell you right now, it's my 24th favourite year at the Oscars out of 43 that I've seen enough films to qualify. I only count when I've seen 3 or more. But as I say, that is equal to the films of 2014 Oscars 2015, where I also gave them an average score of 7 out of 10, which is what the average score is this year. And that's also the same as 1972's Oscars, that I give an average of 7 out of 10. And 1963's. So my point is 2005. My point is this is as solid a year as any. It's not the best, but it's not the worst, and I think that's surprising. To go out, Alan, you placed bets on our Diminisode.
I did, yeah.
When we were talking about the nominations, before we saw them. For anyone who's listening to this, who wants to hear our Diminisodes, our little bonus episodes, as I say, we did one for the nominations when they came out. We will be doing one, I imagine, discussing what ends up winning, and there's a load of other stuff there. Patreon.com/DimReturns, where you can get that stuff dead cheap and that, and you're helping us out as well. But yeah, you placed a load of bets in our Diminisode that we did.
Yeah.
And now I think I'm going to have a look at a betting site, and I'm going to decide what I should put on, because I haven't put any money down yet. So when you looked at that, Carey Mulligan was the favourite to win Best Lead Actress, was she not?
Hang on, let me get my bets up, and then I can tell you what I had.
I believe she was, because I said, put it on Frances McDormand then, because I think she's going to win.
You did, yeah.
Oh, interesting. Now, Frances McDormand's odds have gone even lower, Alan.
Right.
From the look of it. Carey Mulligan is the favourite to win. Viola Davis is now second. I believe she won at the BAFTAs. That's probably why. I still like that Frances McDormand call there. I think the Oscars like Frances, don't they?
I got Frances McDormand at 4-1. She's now 7-2. So yeah, those odds have come down. And it is pretty close there.
Is that more money or less money? I don't know how odds work. I can't tell.
You would win less.
I think I'm going to put some money down on Frances. I think she's a good shout there. What about Anthony Hopkins for lead actor? Because Chadwick Boseman's still very much the favourite.
Chadwick Boseman is like massive odds-on favourite here. Although I got Anthony Hopkins at 10-1. He's now 6-1. So
damn it,
I got a good price.
Damn it, because he won the BAFTA. But the BAFTAs do have a massive British bias, and
For Best Picture, I've got Nomadland at 1-5 here, massive favourite. 5-1 on, so it's going to be Nomadland by the looks of it.
I think I'm going to put some money down on Anthony Hopkins and Frances McDormand, which are both outside shots, and I'm probably going to regret it, but you've got to make outside bets for it to be worth your time, haven't you? All right, so that's the Oscars.
Done.
Cool. Another Oscars special. Should we figure out, Alan, how many points on this diversity checklist Diminishing Returns gets?
Let's not do that. Let's not highlight our lack of diversity.
Well, we get a point for the characters. We got Japanese Bond. He's Japanese, of course. Senor Sevens is a Mexican.
Is he Japanese?
I don't know. No one really knows.
I'm having my suspicions.
He's over the age of 70.
That's true, yeah. He's dead, technically. I mean...
That is the ultimate disability. Okay, we would not score very well on that, I think it's safe to say. Alan, we will do a little Diminisode on what wins, won't we, I imagine?
Yeah, we'll have a quick
pump one out.
Quick wrap up of it, yeah.
And for those of you not listening live, those of you listening to the episode as it goes out, do come back next week, because we played a hilarious April Fool's prank on you guys recently for April Fool's Day, where we put out a Casino Royale episode, and we implied it was the Daniel Craig film, but then it was the shitty 1960s spoof film. And sorry to make you wait a whole month for the real one, but next episode is the actual Casino Royale, so that's one you're going to enjoy. And it's a good episode, actually. It was a lot less silly than I was expecting, a lot more proper film analysis going on, but like good film analysis. So come back next fortnight, not next week, the week after next, for more Diminishing Returns.
Yay. Thank you for listening, everyone.